Bebop.
Welcome to Artist Bebop number 36. This is the weekly ramble where I take a timer, set it for 22 minutes, and then ramble about artistic things. Here we go. So, yeah, before I started, I was doing, mic checks, and I realized that when I record these, it's after studio time usually, which means my kids went to sleep and I've been alone in the studio. And yeah, I was wondering, I'll come and do the mic check and my voice is weird. And it's because I haven't used my vocal cords in hours. I've not directed children, which is most of my day. Most of my day is speaking to children. So, yeah, just an observation. But this week was kind of stressful. And so I went into, I don't know if these are breakdowns. There are different ways that I cope with stress sometimes. And one of them is repetition. And there are different forms. I can loop a song. That annoys people around me, but this was cool. So the other day, I did that. I was looping this song, and then I got the kids into the car, and we had to go somewhere. And one of my daughters says, when I turn on the radio, she said, "What happened to the song?" Because she was enjoying the repetition. So yeah, that was funny. But that's, I don't know, it's like a stabilizing thing for me. So in the studio, I will paint things in repetition. Stormtroopers are a big one. Star Wars stuff in general is usually that type of thing where I'm painting a stormtrooper, a repetitive Yoda, a Darth Vader. But this round, I went into the studio, and I always have music or podcasts, but I've been feeling more music lately. And so I put on the Beastie Boys. I started to do a Paul's Boutique. And then I started to gather up all the square canvas I could find and paint Paul's Boutique. So I've got about 6 or 7 going. And I've never done that before. So, I don't know. I liked the rhythm of it in the studio. And what happened is I didn't get stuck just doing that same thing. I started to work on other stuff, but I have these forming, and they're all, because of the way I choose to paint, a little different. And I loved that. I loved seeing it and kind of absorbing it and vibing on it. So today I have all that going on. And then I started to do the same with Roberto Clemente. So I've got 2 of those going. Tomorrow I'll add more to those. But this might be part of how I do my workflow in the studio. There's a fly buzzing around me and it's driving me nuts. So, okay, focus. Yes, so anyway, cool. I wonder how normal people cope. So, yeah, a stressful week, but man, God bless the kids. So it was a few days ago. My daughters asked, why don't you play guitar anymore? And I thought about it, and I just hadn't made time lately, so they asked me if I could play it, which was, oh my God. Talk about something making you feel special. And it was cool. And I forgot how cathartic that is for me, playing little songs for them. But, I strum and know a few songs here and there, but it was cool. It reminded me of so when I did nightlife photography, we'd bounce around to different clubs once in a while and so we get to one club where my friend Kid Vicious is, and it's a slow night for them, and he's up there, he's working, but it doesn't sound like what I know Kid Vicious sounded like. So I went and said what's up, and I was listening, and he took a little break to talk a little bit, and he said, yeah, I'm trying to work on sets that are less flashy and maybe get other gigs. And that's why it sounded different. It was a little more standard, whereas he was one of those DJs that I love to work his gig, because it just set me into motion as I was doing my job. And so, I'm watching, I'm like, that's cool. And then I said to him, you're going to scratch for me, right? Because I would always do pictures of the DJs, and the pictures were kind of a reflection of what I was feeling, I guess. So I would run the shutter slow and make them look like they were in a spaceship, which is really where they were, the good ones. And he just smiled really big and got to scratching, and it was awesome. It was always awesome. It's like I could feel sparks fly from the DJ booth, and he finishes up the scratch, and he looks up at me and he says, thanks for that. That's the energy my kids gave me this week. And I forgot my son, how much he likes the guitar, which he was so little. He was a newborn and already in my studio pouched. And so guitar was a big part of that. And that kind of stuck with him, I guess. But yeah, that was cool. Like I said, it was a stressful week, but there's always cool things. It's life, I think. Or it is. Man. So yeah, I'm thinking, I wonder how long this new methodology will last. But I dug it. So we'll see. Maybe, I was really in the groove today, which is optimal. Yeah. What else have I been thinking about, writing about? Marketing, always thinking about marketing. Yeah, I was thinking, I had a conversation once with a friend, and he had gone to work for this guy who was really good at his marketing. And so we had lunch so that I could pick his brain. He was kind enough. And he broke down all of these strategies. And the big takeaway on that one, and this was kind of early for my career, but he said, you either find somebody that's your mouthpiece and does that part for you, or you become your own rep. Those are the two ways. And I don't know, I just never had... Well, that's not true. But yeah, over time it's just always been me. Even when there's a representation, I never had an exclusive with anybody. Because that just it didn't seem wise business-wise. Because there was never a guarantee. And I knew plenty of artists who would be repped but not sell anything. But the esteem of having a rep, it was weird. Like that makes no sense. So I just never, I was weary of that. I'm sure it works somewhere for somebody, not me. Oh, and the other thing is being in control of, I don't know. There's pros and cons to everything. But I was just thinking about how things fluctuate. Life, market, economies, pandemics can come and disrupt the way things are done. But I guess the constant for me is that I've always learned to adapt, which was harder earlier on, but yeah, I'm happy to have sharpened that skill. Because there isn't a playbook for any of this art thing. I think I don't know, because part of it is it's personal, where you're coming from it. Like what you're coming from, what it means. So, yeah, just musing on that. Yeah. Studio has been flowing though, that's good. Ugh. 3 a.m. is getting to me. Yeah, I've been going long in there, and which is great, but productivity wise, but kind of makes my daytime a little harder. Then in the daytime, I get a few sessions. We'll work with my kids. I'll make paper pieces, which I've really been loving lately. Those have evolved a lot. I have them to thank because they give me some studio time while I teach them. So that's been cool too. They've been very interested in making their own movies. So I kind of rolled that into their education. So now I gave them I put my software, my app that I edit on their iPads, and I'm watching them make cool things. That it's, yeah. I think it's funny. I was thinking about how I'll see TikToks and memes or reels or whatever, and parents or older people are like, when I was young, we went outside and played, and it's like, well, yeah, it's because we didn't have iPads. We did. I don't know. It's weird. And then people close to me talking like that. It's like, oh my gosh. You don't become what you once criticized. I think maybe that's inevitable, but I try to avoid it. I guess I learned that from art. I used to, in college, well, even after college, when I had downtime, I would go to the museum during lunch. Yeah, because I worked a dark room, I remember, in the studio. That was my last 9 to 5. That was right after college. And that didn't last long. Before I said enough. But during those lunch breaks, I remember I used to go to the museum, and one of them was the Contemporary Art Museum. And I used to look at every exhibit. I would especially look at the ones that I didn't like. And I'd sit and I'd study and I'd reflect why it was in there. And a lot of the time, I still didn't like it, but I could figure out where whoever curated and picked that, put it in there, and why. And that's the thing. There's no rule that, as a viewer, you have to like something. All right, so I had a lapse in audio, so the ramble might be a little longer or shorter. We'll see. But what I was saying was, there's no rule saying you have to like something. And I think that's very intimidating for people sometimes, because if you ask somebody an opinion about, or to give an opinion about art, they're often afraid. And I think there's reasons for that. There's reasons I approach and present and talk about and celebrate art the way I do, because I don't want anyone feeling that way about art if I can help it. I guess that's my big message as an artist, that it should be accessible to everyone, that this isn't something that's just for a certain set of people. Everyone is creative, everyone is expressive, and anyone who says otherwise about themselves, somebody killed that child in them, or tried to. Our kids are always in here. That youthful glow. Yeah. Which I love and embrace, of course. Probably too much. Yeah, I do feel with my kids like I'm just one of them sometimes. Not too much. They do remind me I'm parent a lot. It's a tricky balance. But it's a beautiful thing. Man. Yeah, it's funny. I was looking at. I had this audio glitch, and I was looking at the footage to see where I left off speaking. And I was like, man, I look tired. I went too deep in that studio time today. So sleep. I will sleep peacefully tonight. See what dreams I have. I love dreams. I did a time lapse about one of the funniest and most absurd dreams I ever had. I'll give you the short version. I was little and I loved to watch wrestling, and so much so that I had a dream that this wrestler, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, was stomping up and down our front yard. And I run out and see that it's him. And I tell my mom, Hacksaw Jim Duggan's in the front yard. And in the dream she says, yes, that's my brother. And I'm like, he's my uncle? And then I wake up and so yeah, I did a time-lapse painting of that and kind of told the story. I've been having fun with those, the time-lapse stories, and just audio talking over. I like voiceover stuff. I think it's funny. It's easier than when I'm talking to the camera. Although I'm not so self-conscious here in these rambles, but some of them, because I am looking at the camera. Here I'm not afraid to veer off, I guess, which is a little weird. There we go. There's our timer. Post-ramble. Quiet. But I don't know, I feel pretty free in these. I never watched them again. I watched them for the edit and to make sure nothing happened with the sound, but I guess to make my... Well, no, because, yeah, I have an app that does all that. Clips for me. So I don't really... I don't know. I don't really sit here and think about... I wonder... I don't know. Now I'm overthinking all this. Okay. We will stop. We'll stop... As I said, these are really authentic rambles. Okay, well, have a good weekend, and I will see you next time.
Welcome to my world, El Santo's world. Bebop.